So just the recap is that the events leading to the conversation between Vidura and Maitreya is being recounted by Shukadeva Goswami. Vidura, being disrespected by Duryodhan in the court of Dhritarashtra, left Hastinapur and started on a pilgrimage. And in the course of the pilgrimage, he comes to Prabhasa Kshetra. And in Prabhasa Kshetra, he understands that Krishna and the Yadus have left the world. So he is very pained at heart and continues his journey. And on the banks of Yamuna, he meets Uddhava, who is also a Yaduvamshi. So he is curious. Oh, Uddhava is here. So he asks about. He offers his respects to Uddhava and inquires from Uddhava about the welfare of Krishna, Yadus, and Pandavas. Even though he had heard about Krishna's passing away, still he wanted to confirm Uddhava indirectly. So instead of asking, I heard that Krishna disappeared, and if it was a false news, that would be not good. And Jiva Goswami also says it's a kind of an emotional feeling that maybe they are not gone, they're still there. So it's a kind of a denial, but in a right sense. So he asks Uddhava, and Uddhava just hints him that Krishna has disappeared, but doesn't speak a lot about that. So before speaking about Krishna and the Yadu's disappearance, he speaks a lot philosophy behind who is Krishna, and then very systematically he begins to remember Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan from his birth in Mathura and he being moved to Vrindavan. He explains he recounted various pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan last week. So this week he is continuing. Uddhava is going to continue speaking about Krishna's pastimes, specifically in Mathura and Dwarka. So that is the subject matter of this week, where Uddhava is going to speak about Krishna's pastimes that happen in Dwarka and Mathura. So we will see those now. So the chapter 2 was titled Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, or remembering Krishna's pastimes. So here this particular chapter, third chapter, is specifically titled as Krishna's pastimes outside Vrindavan. So outside Vrindavan, it is Mathura and Dwarka. So this chapter contains verses, totally 28 verses, and out of them, the first 9 verses speak about Krishna's education and marriage, different marriages that he has, and then the different demons that he kills, and the Kurukshetra war, and his pastimes specifically in Dwarka, and the events leading up to the annihilation of the Yadus. So the background of how and why everything happened that happened in Dwarka. So that is going to be discussed in this chapter. And then in the next chapter, we will see the exact description of the disappearance of the Yadus, and then more details about Krishna's and Uddhava's meeting, and then Uddhava sending Vidura to meet Maitreya. So we will see that in the coming chapter. In the first 9 verses, we will be seeing Krishna's education and marriages. So straight this here in the Mathura pastime, Uddhava recounts to Vidura directly after coming out of Vrindavan. The first thing he is doing is he's killing Kamsa at his own court, at his own kingdom. So killing Kamsa is being described by Uddhava, like specifically Kamsa is being killed by Krishna not for his protection. Uddhava is saying for giving happiness to his parents, Krishna and Balaram actually went to Mathura, and there they killed Kamsa and dragged his body to reassure them he is dead and gone. No need to, because after killing Kamsa, Krishna drags his body around to show everyone, oh, he's really gone, so don't need to worry. And along with Kamsa, they also killed many other people like Chanura, Mushtika, Kuvalaya, Pida, like that. So after Kamsa was killed, then Ugrasena was installed as king, and everybody was resuming their regular positions. Everyone from the Bhoja, Andaka, and Vrishni dynasties, they resumed their positions. And then Krishna, now he is the prince. So now he was being sent to get educated. Because as the sons of Nanda Maharaj, who is in the Vaishya role, there is no formal Gurukula education for Vaishyas. Directly he is sent very sweet. He is sent to herd cows and herd calves first, and then he is sent to herd cows. But there is no formal education. So generally, the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas go to Gurukula. Vaishyas also go, but for a very little, if at all. Otherwise, they are directly engaged and trained in the occupation of their parents. And in that also, the Kshatriya does not go for a long time. It is the Brahmana who stays for a long time in the Gurukula under the tutelage of the spiritual master. And if he is qualified, he goes on to become a sannyasi, or otherwise he gets married. But he stays for a long time learning various scriptures. For Kshatriya, he has some background of values and some scriptural knowledge, but he is later trained as the kids grow. They are more trained in martial arts and other things which are required for Kshatriyas. But they have some base of living in the ashram of gurus, specifically learning spiritual things and values, because they will be the leaders of the society. So some values are implemented in their system, instilled in their system. So now Krishna, being now the son of Vasudev, who is a Kshatriya, so he goes to Gurukul. Little late, but still they go. But Krishna does it all very quickly. So Uddhava says the Lord learned all the Vedas and their 6 angas from Sandipani Muni by hearing only once, and rewarded him as Guru Dakshina because he learned from Sandipani Muni, and to repay him as a token of gratitude. When he asked, Sandipani Muni understood who's Krishna. Just imagine if you are having a student, can you ask the student, go to Amaraj and bring my dead sons back? No, Sandipani Muni knows who's Krishna. So he requests Krishna to bring back the dead son of him. So Krishna does that as a Guru Dakshina. And then as he grows up, he receives a love letter from Mother Rukmini. So seeing that Rukmini Devi is so desirous to be in his service, so he goes and he kidnaps her. So Uddhava says, stepping over the other hopeful princes and the kings of various kingdoms who were infatuated by the beauty of Rukmini, Krishna just snatched her as a lion snatches his prey among the wolves. So similarly, he actually very lovingly took away Rukmini and married her. So like here Uddhava was saying, Garuda carried away nectar from the other fighting demons. And he also married Nagnajiti by subduing 7 bulls, because the bulls are actually being it is Nagnajiti's father, Nagnajit. He actually knows that he wants to marry his daughter to Krishna only, and then he makes this particular condition that only when someone controls all these 7 bulls, who will be released at the same time, then he will be able to marry my daughter. And he knew one except for Krishna, nobody else could do that. And Krishna very happily controls or subdues all those 7 bulls and marries Nagnajiti. And Uddhava also says how to please his dear wife Satyabhama Devi, Krishna brought Parijata tree from the heavenly planets, because the Parijata tree was only in the heavenly planet. And being like he says, as if he was like a henpecked husband, but it was actually Indra who was the henpecked husband. And in that way, Krishna pleases his queens. Like it's a relationship of service. It's not a relationship of exploitation between Krishna and his queens. The queens actually, if you see in the 10th canto, there is a whole chapter where they say how they want to be the servant maids of Krishna. And Krishna constantly sees how I can please them, reciprocate for their devotional service. And in that way, and Krishna also married the 16,100 princes. But how did he marry? He married because he went to kill Narakasura along with Satyabhama Devi. And there he established Narakasura's son Bhagadatta as the king. And after that, he released all the princes who were kidnapped by Narakasura. And Krishna is the original social reformer, you would say. You can say, because in those days, if somebody is kidnapped and kept in under control, nobody would marry those ladies in the society, because of the custom that they are being touched by another man. But here Krishna, who is who just didn't consider all those things. He just reciprocated for the love that the 16,100 princes that they had, and the desire that they had for marrying him. So he didn't care about the social customs, but he actually married all those princes because nobody else would actually marry them also. So it was not that Krishna forced them, rather he actually helped them and by marrying them, and they were also not marrying because there is no other choice, but they were actually loving and wanting to be Krishna's wives. And Krishna took care of them royally by having individual palaces and individually expanded for them. And here Uddhava says, when he got married to the 16,100 princes, he was present individually in each place where he was getting married, and he had expanded into many forms, exactly matching each and every princess according to their height, according to their build, according to their various features. He accordingly expanded himself to match them perfectly and took their hands simultaneously. It's not he married he took 16,100 days to marry 16,100 princes. He married all of them simultaneously. And each of the palaces he was present by his internal potency. And each and every one, in each of those queens, Krishna begot 10 offsprings, exactly like himself. So you can understand the family, the immediate family of Krishna was so huge. and and just imagine, it's just the immediate family of Krishna himself is so big. How big the Dwarka city must be, because there were so many other millions of residents. So how big the city could have been. And in this way Uddhava is recounting in these verses how the Krishna killed Kamsa and educated under Sandipani Muni, and then he married Rukmini, Nagnajiti, and Satyabhama, and 16,100 princes, and he had expanded for them all separately, and then had offsprings with all of them. And then Uddhava is remembering how Krishna is merciful. Krishna is merciful in this way by marrying Sosa, and the other phase of his mercy, not just to his devotees, even to the demons, he was merciful. So that part of Krishna's mercy is going to be discussed by Uddhava to Vidura in these verses from 10 to 15. So the most beautiful aspect of Krishna is his personal beauty. Also, okay, Shuman Prabhu is asking who are the other queens of Krishna. If I remember, it is Kalindi, Jambavati, Satya, and yeah, sorry, I'm not able to recollect the other two of them. So you can, yeah, I can text you later. And so in this way, Krishna's beauty is for personal form is extremely beautiful. It's very attractive. That's why all these queens are attracted to him. But one of the most attractive features of Krishna is his beauty is that he loves to give credit to his devotees. That is the even more beautiful aspect of a personality. Because sometimes people may be beautiful, if they are not good at heart, then their beauty is not very pleasing for a long time. So Krishna is externally beautiful. He attracted all these queens, but it is not just he is externally beautiful. Internally, he is extremely, extremely beautiful, and that beauty is even more than his. It's all equal. But I'm just saying that is more important. And here, how he is internally very beautiful because he loves to give fame to his devotees. Krishna killed so many demons in Vrindavan like Putana and Aghasur and Bakasur and Trinavarta and Shakatasura and Pralambasura or Vyomasura, so many demons. And he even stopped the influences of Brahma and Indra. So these are greatly powerful people. And he did it as a small child. It didn't become like a big deal or anything. But when he had to kill demons like Kalyavan, Jarasandha, and Shalva, who was extremely famous kings, and to kill them would be a great achievement. The whole world would know that somebody killed Jarasandha, somebody killed Shalva, somebody killed Kalyavan. And instead of that, he used, instead of himself killing and taking the fame of killing these very powerful people, he engaged his devotees like Muchukunda, Bhima, and others in arranging for these demons to be killed by them, and they were glorified eternally for killing someone like Jarasandha. Jarasandha was defeated, I believe, 17 times by Krishna. He could have easily killed him, but he didn't kill personally. He engaged Bhima and let Bhima have the glory of killing Jarasandha for the rest of eternity. So, in this way, Krishna killed more powerful demons, but he let his devotees take the fame by killing so many famous demons. And he also killed Shambara, Dvivida, Bana, Mura, Balvala, either personally or through Baladev or Balaramji or Pradyumna. So in this way, through him or through his expansions, he killed many demons also. So this killing is also mercy because they were all delivered. And the highest form of mercy was shown in the battle of Kurukshetra, where the Lord arranged for the killing of the strong kings all in one place. But the important thing was they were all actually purified by looking at Krishna's beauty and by the arrows of Arjuna, and they all were liberated. So we saw last week. And the most important aspect of Krishna's heart comes out when Krishna sees Duryodhan with his broken thighs lying on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So, if the whole war was because of Duryodhana and he's finally down, lying on the ground and he's defeated, naturally the opposite parties, opposite side should be enjoying, should be feeling happy. Yes, finally we did it. But Krishna was not that kind of an enemy. He cannot be the enemy of anyone because he is the ultimate friend of everybody. So Krishna felt unhappy seeing Duryodhan lying on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. He was not happy at heart. His heart pained. If only this Duryodhan, and the name used for Duryodhan here is Suyodhanam Chanucharam. Shukadeva Goswami says he names him Suyodhanam Chanucharam. Means uh, his original name was Suyodhan because of his behavior it became Duryodhan. So if Krishna was thinking, if only Duryodhana actually accepted my words and obeyed and was good to my devotees, he need not lie like this. And he's going to go for a long time suffering because of these sinful reactions and offenses. So his heart was pained to see Duryodhana. And he was only saying, how can I show more mercy to this person? He could have received much more mercy than this. So, and then Jiva Goswami, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says, Krishna was unhappy seeing Duryodhan, and he was also unhappy seeing that. But one reason that Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says, each and every soul is part and parcel of Krishna, so he was unhappy seeing them suffer in general, how conditioned souls suffer. And he was also kind of concerned because now with Kurukshetra, he has removed the majority of the burden the burden of the people in this world. But there was one thing which was troubling him at heart because there is another kind of burden on this world. Innumerable of his associates, innumerable associates in Dwarka, and he knows that Kurukshetra is kind of the climax of his pastimes. So now he has established, he will be establishing Yudhishthira Maharaj, and after that there is not a long time for him to continue his mission here. He can move on. So he understands that my pastimes will come to a close, but the problem is the Yadu dynasty is so innumerable that I don't know if I just disappear without how will they actually be, how will they handle, or how the world will go with them, because the numbers are really high, and there are some demigods who came to participate eagerly in Krishna's pastimes. So Krishna doesn't know, there will be no end. They can live on as long as they want. They will not be affected by death, and they will not be able to be defeated or killed by anybody else. So he was worrying. I dealt with this kind of demoniac people, this burden very easily. I don't need to involve myself. I just brought them all together. They fought among themselves, and then they are gone. But how am I going to deal with my own family members? How am I going to remove that burden from there? Even though it is a burden of love, still how am I going to handle that burden? So he was pained thinking of that. because there is 18 Akshaunis of the army is destroyed in the Kurukshetra war, but still Yadus are a huge number, much more than that. But he was also thinking Yadus cannot be destroyed like others. So the Lord predicted and planned for the disappearance of the Yadus. So they will, and Krishna was thinking how they will only disappear only when I disappear, after I disappear, or when I want them to disappear by quarreling among themselves, or they are only fit to be defeating each other. There is nobody else who can fight with them and defeat. So he is thinking of a plan. And aside this, now Uddhava is going to explain about more passages of Krishna in the Hastinapur and other places. How Krishna, after the Kurukshetra war, established King Yudhishthir as the emperor to show ideal administration. That was the purpose of fighting the whole Kurukshetra war, to have Yudhishthir Maharaj as the ideal king of the whole planet. And Krishna also protected the embryo of Uttara, who became Parikshit Maharaj later, from the weapon of Ashwatthama. And Krishna also induced Maharaj Yudhishthira to perform 3 Ashwamedha sacrifices to glorify him. And he also like guided him in ruling, being assisted by his younger brothers. And there are Krishna simultaneously enjoyed life in Dwarka following all the Vedic and social customs, and was at the same time, even though he was enjoying life with the 16,108 princes in his palaces in Dwarka, he was also looking after establishing dharma in all over the world by establishing Yudhishthira Maharaj. And also after a point, he understood, okay, this is going to be a close of my pastimes. So he also manifested detachment. He was constantly situated in detachment. He was not attached like a normal materialistic person to his wives. Still, as a householder, he was showing detachment and knowledge both. And it is said how this snigdha smitavalokena vacha piyusha kalpaya charitrena anavadhyena sriniketana shatmana. So snigdha smitavalokana means with his affectionate smiles and glances, Krishna actually, and his with nectarian words, vacha piyusha kalpaya. Just imagine Krishna's words; they are nectarian. When we hear the flute of Krishna, it's actually it's called the nectar flowing through sound. Similarly, when Krishna was speaking, also it was nectar flowing in as sound. So vacha piyusha kalpaya. Piyusha is nectar. Charitrena anavadhina. What is this? Sometimes people may speak very sweetly and may look very beautiful or handsome, and they may be speaking extremely sweet, and just by hearing them speak we may melt. But is their character great? At heart, are they similarly beautiful? So Krishna is not externally beautiful, and sometimes people are very beautiful, but they may speak very harsh. As soon as they open their mouth, they'll be like very harsh. No, Krishna is beautiful externally. Krishna is extremely pleasing in his speech and extremely pure at heart. It's a flawless character. Ana avadhyena. So, Charitrena. Charitra is character. Anavadhyena. Completely flawless in his character. And in his transcendental body is the actual residence of the supreme goddess of fortune, residence of Lakshmi Devi. So the Lord enjoyed his pastimes in the association of the Yadus in general, but he specifically enjoyed with his queens at night in seclusion. So the queens had the highest form of association actually, because it was more intimate. So the queens of Dwarka had the intimate association of Krishna, and still, even though with all his great qualities, he attracted them and they were serving him in various ways out of conjugal love. Still, Krishna, even though he engaged in household life with 16,108 queens for so many years, he exhibited detachment. That is how he could exhibit contradictory qualities at the same time. Even though he was enjoying with 16,108 queens, he was at the same time exhibiting detachment. And Shukadeva Goswami says, who can understand this? Who can understand how Krishna at the same time enjoys and establishes showcases detachment. He says only devotees can put faith in the Lord's activities. He says in this world, everybody's sense enjoyment is under the control of the demigods. Say, for example, if the demigod sun is displeased with me, and if my eyes can see, then my sense enjoyment is immediately impeded. If my hands or legs get paralyzed, immediately my sense, everything is, all my bodily sense enjoyment is impaired if my body becomes paralyzed. So in this way, our sense enjoyment is very, very uh, fickle because it can be taken away any moment. Just I may just slip and then fall in the step while climbing down, and I may get a serious injury. I may get in some problem. So my sense enjoyment is on a really on a tottering platform. Anytime it can be lost. So thinking securely in this world is actually illusion. Our life is really can be changed at a single moment by a single event for the rest of our lives. So the sense enjoyment of everyone in this world is completely under the Adhyatmika, Adidaivika control. And still people think, oh, I'm enjoying life and I will continue to enjoy life. And when they look at Krishna, they also think, like how I try to enjoy my senses under the control of Daiva, similarly here Krishna is also enjoying his senses under the control of Daiva. They don't understand that Krishna is above everything. Krishna is above the three modes, above the demigods, and his enjoyment is not within the three material modes, and it is transcendental, and it is under his own sweet will. It is not controlled or imposed by anybody. So, unless one is a devotee, one cannot actually put faith in the Lord's transcendental sense activities, because to understand, to accept that the Lord is transcendental is only possible for a devotee, not for a non-devotee. So that is why Shukadeva Goswami says, Dhaivadhineshu kameshu daivadhinaha swayam puman ko vishrambheta yogena yogeshwaram anuvratana. So which person whose sense enjoyment is under the control of Daiva can understand the transcendental nature of the sense activities of the Supreme Lord? Only a devotee can understand. So even though he was completely attached to the 16,108 queens, still he was detached because he is the Supreme Lord. And now, after remembering Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes and Mathura and Dwarka pastimes, gradually Uddhava is opening up to the matter of how Krishna and the Yadus disappeared. So now he's recounting how the Yadus were cursed. Once the princes of Yadus and the Bhoja dynasties actually dressed up Samba like a lady, as a pregnant lady, and then took to the sages and asked, you are actually great seers of past, present, and future. Please, sages, tell us what child this lady would have. And the sages understood that they had dressed up a man, specifically Samba, like this. So they became angry and with their joking, and they said, okay, you are all making fun of us. That is a behaving disrespectful towards sages and brahmanas. So you have, it's time, because this whole thing is happening out of Krishna's desire. So they understood Krishna's desire and they delivered a curse saying, this lady will give birth to iron rod through which all of you will be destroyed. So they completely became aghast and they begged forgiveness, and then they come back and tell King Ugrasena that this is what happened. And Samba over time gives birth to the rod, and actually they immediately check. There is an iron rod in the belly of Samba, and then that iron rod is presented to Ugrasena. He says, okay, grind this iron rod to powders and then throw it. So that is being ground to powder, and then they distribute it, they throw it in the river, and those fine particles settle on the banks of Prabhasha Kshetra by Krishna's will and grow into bamboo rods. And now then Krishna sends them. So bewildered by Krishna's own personal bewilderment, Deva Vimohitaha. They were not Maya Vimohitaha, they were Deva Vimohitaha. And that's what Shukadeva Goswami says. All the Devata portions of the Vrishnis, because the associates of Krishna, where some are original associates from the spiritual world, Some were associates who were from the demigods, and some were demigod plus the eternal associate. Like Uddhava, he is an eternal associate of Krishna, and there is a Vasu who is also part of Uddhava. So there were multiple personalities also present in. So those demigod portions were actually sent along with, they were separated and sent to Prabhasa Kshetra by Krishna. And while his eternal devotees actually remained in Dwaraka, like Uddhava, he remained in Dwaraka, and others actually went back. The queens were taken later. So in this way, the eternal associates remained with Krishna, like Vasudeva and Balramji and all of them. But the demigod portions who were in some of them, they actually separated and they went to Prabhasa Kshetra. And at Prabhasa Kshetra, Yadus actually took back, offered respects to the forefathers, demigods, and the sages, and they gave charity to the Brahmanas, and they fed them, they gave charity, they gave various kinds of charity, like cows, gold, clothing, and seeds, and blankets, animal skin, horses, elephants, brides, and land in charity to the Brahmanas. They respected them. So you can see the generic behavior of the Yadus are very dharmic. They, when they offended the sages, that was not their usual behavior or the regular behavior. So there, that is because of Krishna's desire and out of like kind of a uh, like a playful nature. But actually they are regularly very dharmic, and you can see that how they are distributing to, charity to the Brahmanas here. And after respecting the Brahmanas and offering them charity, they were offered delicious prasad, and by Krishna's will, they also get. And in the next chapter, we will see what happens after they take prasad and they, or after they offer their respects to the Brahmanas. So let me just switch my presentation. So in the chapter 4, we are going to see how the disappearance of the Yadus will be described by Shukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. And also we will see how Lord Krishna and Uddhava met, because if everybody else went to Prabhasa Kshetra, why did Uddhava not go to Prabhasa Kshetra? And where did he meet Maitreya Muni and Krishna, and how Krishna left, and what did he instruct Uddhava? And then Uddhava directing Vidura to meet Maitreya Rishi. Why? Why is he directing him to meet Maitreya and not personally explaining? So we will see those reasons. So far we saw how Vidura left home, met Uddhava, and then asked about Krishna. And Uddhava actually explained about Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan and out of Vrindavan. And then he is going to speak about the disappearance of the Yadus and Krishna in this chapter 4. So there are 36 verses in this chapter. In the previous chapter, we had 28 verses in which we saw the Dwarka pastimes and the beginning of the disappearance of the Yadus. In this chapter, we will see more details of the disappearance of the Yadus, and then Krishna meeting Uddhava and Maitreya Rishi, and then Uddhava was instructed by the Lord to go to Badrikashram, and Uddhava instructs Vidura to meet Maitreya. So we will see in detail these sections. Can anyone say what is the time? So in this section, the first section is the disappearance of the Yadus. So Yatate tat anugyata. Shukadeva Goswami says tat anugyata means with the Lord's permission, the Yadus ate the remnants that were offered by the Brahmanas, and also they drank liquor. So liquor here is not like the liquor of this day and age. It is a kind of a drink made out of the rice. It is written there. Prabhupada also writes about it in the purpose, and they became delirious and they use harsh words at each other. So we will see some description in Mahabharata. There is a separate Moshul Leela. Bhagavatam just does not go into the details, it just speaks the essence of the whole thing. That some spoke harsh words and it became like a like an argument, and over that they became angry, and then they go and pick those very bamboo rods which grew out of those fine particles that they ground and then they left in the river. So using those bamboo rods, they attack each other. So due to intoxication, their minds become unbalanced and they destroy each other, just as bamboos by mutual friction create fire and destroy the whole forest. So Srila Prabhupada here writes, this is also a lesson that Krishna is teaching, how intoxication is bad even for great people. Like yadus can get imbalanced in their thought process. So what to speak of other people? So he speaks that how Krishna is trying to teach a lesson that even if you are as great as the associates of the Lord, you can be offending great Vaishnavas and also engaging in things like intoxication. So however great we become, we cannot say, let me have a look at Maya. So that is also a lesson that Krishna is teaching here. So, and if someone may ask, oh, how could the eternal associate of the Lord be vanquished while the Lord is present? And Krishna Chakravarti also says, and also Shukadeva Goswami says, Swamayaya, Swaatma Mayaya. That is, this is the personal action of the Lord's Maya. So, seeing that Krishna, after executing all these things, Lord Krishna sipped the water of river Saraswati and then sat down under the tree. So Krishna Chakravarti clarifies how the Devatas who entered into various Yadavas, the Lord's eternal associates, actually separated themselves from those Yadavas and came to Prabhasa Kshetra. And Krishna wanted them to be dispatched to their respective positions to resume their activities because the mission of his descent was coming to a close, was already accomplished through Kurukshetra war and through wearing the various demons and protecting the Pandavas. So further, it was a very convincing display for the common people to think that the others were destroyed by killing each other. So this whole thing that they're killing each other is actually a display of the internal energy of the Lord for the common people to see and feel, yes, the others actually destroyed each other. So it kind of creates an impression on their things. And if someone wants to use this as a reason not to be a devotee of Krishna, they can use that. So Madhvacharya says how Krishna keeps certain statements, Krishna keeps certain pastimes which are very bewildering, which create doubt in the minds of faithless people so that they want to be not devotees and they want some reason. So Krishna also have to accommodate them. So Krishna does certain things which is extremely bewildering for faithless people, and they can use that as reasons for not being devotees of Krishna. Otherwise, they will not have a strong reason for doing what they are doing. So, just to facilitate their desire, Krishna performs those pastimes, it is said. And here, the Lord meets Uddhava and Maitreya Rishi. So, we saw in the previous section, in the third verse, that Krishna, after witnessing the fight between the Yadus and they destroy themselves, after that he goes, sips water for purification in the river Saraswati, and then sits down under a tree. So after he sits down under the tree, what happens? Who comes to meet him? None other than Uddhava. Actually, in Dwaraka, before this Prabhasa Kshetra fighting between the Yadus happened, Krishna told, Krishna was contemplating on this. So Uddhava, being the expert devotee and the intimate associate of the Lord, understanding the mind of the Supreme Lord, goes in, begs him, pleads him that you are planning to go. What will become of us? So Krishna explains, you don't need to worry. You are my eternal associate. So you go to Badrikashram. So he did not want Uddhava anyway to be there because he understood he is going to disappear and some of the family members are going to return back and some of the other family members are going to disappear in a very externally gruesome way. So this all would pain Uddhava's heart. So Krishna wanted to save Uddhava from that. So he wanted to dispatch him for a duty because Krishna had visited so many places during his pastimes. He went to Yamaraj, he went to Yamaloka, he went to Varuna Loka, he went to even Mahavishnu Loka. He traveled to the heavenly planets. He traveled to all different parts of the planet, but he could not fulfill the desires of Krishna. Desires of Naranara and Rishi to visit them in Badarikashram. So Krishna thought, who is the perfect person? Who is the perfect person who can represent me? Because it's time for me to go, and I have. So even Krishna has unfulfilled items in his agenda. So what to speak of other people? So Krishna thought, okay, this item, who can do on my behalf? So he sees only Uddhava as the most qualified person. So he says, Uddhava, you go to Patarikashram and give my teachings and messages and association on behalf of me to Naranarayan Rishi. I could not satisfy their desire when I'm here. So, and also he wanted to save him from the pain of disappearance. So, in spite of knowing and hearing the instruction of Krishna, Uddhava saw Krishna leaving and the other Yadus leaving to Pravasa Kshetra. So he followed Krishna. He did not go to Badarikashram as per the orders of Krishna. Because of love, he disobeyed. Like how when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left to Vrindavan, Gadadhar Pandit, who had actually taken Kshetra Sannyas for Puri. The Kshetra Sannyas means I will not leave Puri anytime. That is one form of sannyas. So he had taken Kshetra sannyas for Jagannath Puri. Still, out of love, he was breaking that instruction or in that vow he had taken before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, so similarly here, Uddhava, even though was being personally instructed by Krishna, out of love he actually disobeyed that order and followed Krishna and the other Yadus to Prabhasa Kshetra behind them, not along with them. So he saw when he came, already everything was done, and Krishna is sitting on the banks of river Saraswati under this banyan tree. So Uddhava goes and meets Krishna. So Krishna understands Uddhava's heart. He's not disturbed that why you didn't follow my instruction. Rather, he's pleased and understands the attachment, intense, loving sentiment and attachment that Uddhava has for Krishna. And here Uddhava specifically explains the form of Krishna, or Shukadeva Goswami explains specifically the form of Krishna because generally Krishna only had two hands in his original form, but here he manifests four arms, a dark as usual his complexion and peaceful reddish eyes, and he was dressed in yellow garments, but he manifested four arms because the Maitreya Rishi also will be coming soon. So in order to actually show that he is the Supreme Lord, and because Maitreya Rishi was not on the same level as Uddhava, so to accommodate him also, he is showing the four hands. He was resting against a young banyan tree which was smaller. Vishnu Chakravarti says this young small banyan tree represents natural nature, which is always smaller in its effect, and it's behind Krishna. It is just a support for Krishna's pastimes. And he was blissful, even though so much has happened with the Yadus currently. He is not sitting and crying, he is not morose, he understands this is all a display of his internal potency. He was extremely blissful. At that point of time, Maitreya Rishi, who is actually a friend of Vyasadeva, very dear friend of Vyasadeva, and he comes, he's a great personality, and out of his devotional sukriti, out of his devotional credits that he had, he actually comes at the right time when Krishna is about to pass. In the sense, he is going to move on to that out of this particular planet. So at this point in time, Krishna is sitting very relaxed, blissful, and Uddhava comes and meets him, and Maitreya Rishi also comes at the same point of time. So Krishna's attention was totally towards Uddhava mostly, and Maitreya was attentive to hearing Krishna. So the difference is Krishna was attentive to Uddhava, and Maitreya Rishi was more attentive to Krishna, because Uddhava and Krishna had more of an affinity in a different rasa. So it is very natural. If two people are there, one is more of a friend who is close to heart, we naturally tend to show affection. So here also, Krishna instructed Uddhava. At the same time, Krishna had already instructed Uddhava Uddhava Gita in Dwaraka when he was instructing him to go to Badarikashram. But now, understanding Uddhava's sentiments at heart, he is again instructing him, and for the benefit of Maitreya also. So he addresses Uddhava as O Vasu, because Vishnu Chakravarti says Uddhava also had a portion of a demigod Vasu in his personality. So he actually addressed him because Uddhava is an internal associate of the Lord. So why he should be called a Vasu? So the Vasu is also along. He's a sadhana siddha. Vasu is one of them who entered the Nitya Siddha Uddhava. And here Uddhava is revealed in that way to protect the confidentiality of his pastimes. before Maitreya. So also the Lord is indicating Maitreya the importance of the association of the Lord. How even great personalities come and take my association. You, Maitreya Rishi, don't remain an impersonalist. So Maitreya Rishi was not a full-fledged impersonalist, but he also had some inclination for the Jnana Marga. So Krishna was indicating to him how his association is so potent and attractive that even great demigods come and take it. So that is why he is addressing Uddhava as Vasu here. So and he says, your present life is the last, now you can go to Vaikuntha. So he also indicates how if you are attached to the Brahman impersonal feature, you go to Brahman. But you will come to Vaikuntha, you will come to my personal abodes and exchange pastimes with me, O Maitreya, if you engage in devotional service. So in this way, he converts and melts the heart of Maitreya Rishi completely to become 100% devotee of him, fully dedicated to him in the path of bhakti. And then he also says that I spoke to Brahma, the Chaturshloki Srimad Bhagavatam. So at this point, Uddhava says he is completely overwhelmed. Uddhava tells Vidura, after hearing the Lord that I was so overwhelmed by his reciprocation because he wasn't sure if Krishna is going to address him and give him attention because he had asked him to leave the Badrikashram long back. So, but seeing Krishna's affection, Krishna's personal attention, Uddhava's heart was more and more melting, and he was telling Vidura, my hairs were standing in end, my eyes were swelling, my voice choking, I couldn't say anything. I gathered myself and started glorifying the Lord. So the first thing he is saying is, don't think, Krishna, I came here to ask any benedictions. I'm just attached to you. Ponvishate pad saroja bhajam sudurlabhoarteshu api haloke tatapi naham pravruno vibhuvan bhavat padambojanishevanotsuka. So here Uddhava says how I don't want any kind of liberation or anything. I don't care. All I want is I want to be continuously engaged in your loving service. I don't care if I go to Vaikuntha or anything. I actually care to serve you continuously. I'm not interested in achieving any kind of liberation, but I'm only anxious to serve your lotus feet continuously. So don't take that opportunity away from me. So, and he says, you are completely filled with contradictions. Karmanya nihasya bhavo abhavasyate durga ashrayo atari bayat phalayana kalatmano yat pramadayutashrama swatman rate kityati dhir vidamiha. He says, even though you are free from all kinds of work, Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate. The Supreme Lord has no duty to perform. He is not bound to perform any duty. But still that particular Supreme Lord, you engage in activities. Karmanya nihasya bhavo abhavasyate. You're unborn, but still you're abhava, still you take bhava, you take birth for pleasing your devotees. And the fear personified is fearful of you, and you are in the form of time, control everyone, and you chase everyone in the form of time, but you flee away from your enemy as if you are actually fearful, and then you take shelter in the fort that you built as Dwarka. So Kalatmano yat pramada yutashrama. As time, you are chasing everybody in this world, but you run away from your enemies as if you are fearful. So Atman Radeki Yatidir Vidamiha. Actually, you enjoy in yourself, you're self-satisfied. There is nothing you need to look out for enjoyment. If everything is yours and everything is inside you. But still you enjoy householder life with so many coins for pleasing them. So understanding you is not very easy. Understanding you and knowing you who you are in Tattvataha, as Krishna says, one who understands me in Tattvataha. So it's not easy for someone to understand you in Tattva, as Tattvataha, because the contradictions in your behavior bewilder the intelligence of even great learned sages, what to speak of other people. So he is indirectly indicating that how one cannot understand the Supreme Lord with intelligence, but with intense devotion, pure devotion. So he says, even though you are great and you know everything, you used to ask me, consult me for various things, how to do this, how to do that. What do you think, Uddhava? And I was bewildered because how can that Supreme Lord just ask me for consultation? So this act of yours was bewildering me. but don't bewilder me anymore. You are very expert in bewildering me, but please don't bewilder me anymore. Kindly speak that knowledge which you spoke to Brahma. If you think I am competent, if you think I am qualified, please speak that knowledge, because I am in an emotional state. Please give me some instructions. So he says, by that I'll cross over this ocean of sorrow. After your disappearance, I'll be able to tolerate your disappearance with that knowledge. So in that way, Uddhava presents and glorifies Krishna and requests him, inquires him submissively to speak about the knowledge. And then Uddhava did not expand in detail what the Lord spoke to Vidura. He just says, when I requested, the Lord spoke to me about his transcendental situation, Paramam Sitin, how he is eternally situated in a transcendental position. And after hearing him, I was very much aggrieved due to the pain of separation, because after, just imagine, with such loving affection, Krishna reciprocated with Uddhava till the end that he disappeared. So when he actually moved on, when Krishna disappeared, Uddhava's heart was pained from the separation. So in that pain of separation, he started traveling. With Maitreya Rishi left, and then Uddhava also left that place because he just wanted to move to change. And to remember Krishna, the best place is Vrindavan. So he came to the banks of Yamuna. So because he is in the separation from Krishna, so he wanted to experience Krishna. So he was on the banks of Yamuna, and there, to mitigate this pain of separation, I wanted to execute his instruction. So Uddhava was saying, I'm feeling intense separation from Krishna, but to actually unite with Krishna, to experience union again, I have to perform the instructions. I have to fulfill the instructions he gave me. So this is the spirit we see in the life of great souls. Srila Prabhupada wrote, the spiritual master lives in his instruction and the sincere follower lives along with him. So the spiritual master goes on to live in the form of his instructions that he imparts to his student. And the most sincere student who follows those instructions, eternally resides with him, lives in his association. When Srila Bhaktichar Maharaj once told Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, I came to your movement, to your shelter very late. I wish I was there in New York when you were alone in the 26, in the New York Bowery and other places. I wish I was there to serve you when you were alone. So Srila Prabhupada said, I was never alone. My spiritual master was always with me. And we also see in the life of Srila Bhaktichar Maharaj how this was his mood. Like, okay, he had such intimate association of Prabhupada for some time, but after that, I was hearing today also my lecture by His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. He was explaining how in the middle of the night, Srila Bhaktichara Maharaj would get up in the middle of the night. He would just sleep a couple of hours, then get up in the night, and he was translating the books from English into Bengali. And Srila Radhanath Maharaj was explaining how he was intimately associating with Srila Prabhupada because that the instruction of his spiritual master he had taken so seriously, and he was trying to execute that. And every single night for years, like from 77 to 95, something like that, he was executing that instruction by rising middle of the night and just sleeping few hours and translating the works of all the works of Srila Prabhupada into Bengali. So that executing that instruction is an intimate way of remembering and interacting and associating with the spiritual master. And Uddhava wanted to have that experience by executing the instruction of Krishna to proceed to Badrikashram and give his association to Naranarayan Rishi. So in this way he said, when he goes on to he is expressing to Vidura that how I want to execute that instruction. So he didn't elaborate on what Krishna spoke to him. He just said Krishna spoke and disappeared. I'm feeling separation, so I want to mitigate the separation by fulfilling the instruction of Krishna by going to Badrikashram to meet the Naranarayan Rishis. And Vidura at this point of time is like, oh my God, you heard from Krishna personally. Could you please explain me? That's the attitude of Vidura now. So that is this thing going on in his head. So he requests Uddhava, He says, by hearing about Krishna from Uddhava, actually Vidura mitigated his bereavement, his anxiety and pain of heart about the news that he heard about the annihilation of Yadus and Krishna. So he was very bereaved, and that was being solaced by Uddhava's words. And while Uddhava was about to depart, then Vidura inquired with affection. He understood Vidura is eager to execute the instruction of Krishna. He didn't want to obstruct. At the same time, he was eager, or he was greedy to know what did Krishna speak to Uddhava. So with a lot of affection, he inquires from Uddhava, please, Uddhava, I understand that you are about to execute the instruction of Krishna, but do you mind kindly describe me the knowledge that the Lord spoke to you? And Uddhava understands the situation that Vidura is extremely eager and qualified to hear what the Lord spoke to him. At the same time, Uddhava also takes this into consideration that one thing that he has to proceed to Badarikashram, he is impatient in one sense, impatient in a good sense, he is eager. At the same time, he also sees Vidura as elder to him in age. So it is not appropriate for him to give instructions in the form of what Krishna spoke to him. So far, he also spoke to Vidura so many things, but this was like a more of a conversation. He was just ecstatically remembering with Krishna's pastimes. He wasn't giving any instructions. But here, Vidura is taking a humble position, asking, please describe the knowledge that Krishna spoke to you. So it becomes like a spiritual master and disciple kind of relationship. He didn't want to do that with someone who's elder to him and also equally qualified. So in that way, he feels he remembers that Maitreya was also there, and he directs Vidura to go and meet Maitreya. He says, I want to go, instead of saying, I don't want to be a spiritual master and instruct, he says, I have to proceed to Badrikashram, please understand. Do you mind going to Maitreya Rishi? Because he was also there hearing everything that Krishna spoke to me. And he fully absorbed everything. So please go and meet him. So after discussing with Vidura about the Lord's quality, so just to pacify him, he didn't give any instructions about what Krishna spoke. Rather, he spoke about Krishna. Instead of saying what Krishna spoke, he spoke about Krishna's qualities and spent the rest of the night along with Vidura and then departed in the morning. So here, Uddhava's special role, we can see how Krishna is achieving so many things through Uddhava. Because Parikshit Maharaj at this point of time asked Shukadeva Goswami, actually, why did Uddhava remain after the Lord departed? If he was really so eager to be with the Lord always and he cannot bear separation, he could have just went ahead. He could have just gone with Krishna, departed with Krishna. So Shukadeva Goswami says, actually, Krishna desired to disappear after dispatching Yadus, who were numerous in the plea of sage's curse. Krishna took the sage's curse as an excuse to dispatch the Yadus from this world because they were innumerable. They were actually a large numbers, and Krishna wasn't sure how he didn't want them to remain after he finished his pastimes. He wanted them also to move on to his next place where he is going to have pastimes. So Krishna thought to himself that if at all there is some pending agenda items in my list, so who is the best person to achieve those things on behalf of me? It is only Uddhava. So he entrusted Uddhava those tasks, and he also gave the knowledge about Krishna and the generic spiritual knowledge to convince his heart. And since he is never affected by Maya, Uddhava is never affected by Maya, external potency, Krishna was confident. Here is the person who is qualified to be a spiritual master because he is never Gunair na arditaha. He is never affected by Maya. So he says this is a specific qualification of to be a representative of the Supreme Lord. To be a spiritual master, one should never be affected by the external energy. Gunair na arditaha. So therefore, Krishna chooses Uddhava to disseminate the specific knowledge about Krishna to others. So following Krishna's instructions, Uddhava reaches Badrikashram. So in this way, Shukadeva Goswami answers Parikshit Maharaj. It was Krishna's desire that Uddhava remain. It is not Uddhava's desire to remain back. And there, so Vidura heard from Uddhava about the Lord's appearance, the activities and the disappearance. and the glorious activities of the Lord actually increase the happiness of the heart of Vidura. So here Shukadeva Goswami says there is one great important importance in hearing about the Supreme Lord. What is that? Especially for devotees, the hearing the glorious activities of the Supreme Lord presents one great advantage. He says it presents perseverance for the devotees at times of difficulties. Dhirana dhairyavardhana. Dhairya is perseverance, patience. Utsahat nischayat dhairya. Rupa Goswami says one should be patient. So that dhairya vardhanam, so that perseverance is given to the devotees. Dhiranam is devotees. When one hears about Krishna regularly, we develop that tolerance and perseverance and patience in executing Krishna's instructions and in tolerating the miseries of this material world. And he says, for the non-devotees, it is incomprehensible. These activities of the Supreme Lord actually bewilder their intelligence. But the activities of the Supreme Lord does not bewilder the minds of the devotees, rather enlivens them, not just enlivens them for a while, it actually makes them sustain in this, their enthusiasm, sustain their eagerness to devotional service by having patience. Because people can be enthusiastic, but if they are not patient, things will not always happen quickly in this world. It has to take time, like with Uddhava or Vidura, they are eternal associates of the Lord. They have to go through the flow of time. So here, Uddhava has to wait for a while before he actually act completely in the presence of Krishna. Even though he is always in the presence of Krishna, for him to be actually personally present with Krishna, it's going to take some time. So how is he going to persevere? How is he going to tolerate? How is he going to patiently go through that phase of separation? That is by hearing about the Supreme Lord. So that is why Shukadeva Goswami says, Dhiranam Dhairyavardhana. At the same time, for non-devotees, that activities of Krishna may bewilder, but for devotees, it pacifies their heart. And by hearing all this, Vidura was completely overwhelmed, but he was really touched. Vidura was really touched, and he was completely overwhelmed at heart when he knew that Krishna actually remembered him when he was about to disappear. So it is such a amazing thing for Vidura to understand that Krishna actually, even though I'm extremely insignificant, Krishna remembered me when he was about to disappear. So Uddhava said, actually, Vidura remembered you. And Maitreya also will say, Vidura, Krishna told me that I will be giving this knowledge to you. So in this way, Vidura, when he heard from Uddhava that Krishna remembered him, he was completely touched. He was shedding tears. How fallen I am, still Krishna remembered me. Even though I am such an insignificant fallen person, still Krishna remembered me. So because Vidura did not even take part in the one of the main activities of Krishna. So Kurukshetra war, if we consider Kurukshetra war was the one of the important milestones in the agenda items of Krishna. For the reasons for his appearance was annihilate the demons. So one of the very important activities of Krishna is the Kurukshetra war, and Vidura did not participate in it. Vidura actually walked out of it. So some may think, or some, like if say for example, is there a great mission of your spiritual master, and one of the senior disciples does not take part in it. So others may think, oh, he's not actually being part, or something like that. We may think immaturely. But here Krishna is showing not everybody needs to be part of everything. Here he is extremely pleased with Vidura, even though he didn't join him in one of the most important activities of his in his appearance. So Vidura completely walked out of before the Kurukshetra war. He did not take part in the kingdom of Yudhishthira Maharaj. He didn't, because if Vidura remained, he could have become the advisor to Yudhishthira, right? He was the advisor to Dhritarashtra for so many years. So he could have easily become the advisor for Yudhishthira Maharaj, and Krishna would have preferred it, and Yudhishthira would have preferred it. It's the best option you have, but still Vidura chose to go on a pilgrimage and not get involved and take Vanaprastha, and Krishna was not displeased with him. And maybe Vidura had in his heart that I didn't participate, so that is why specifically to pacify his heart, Krishna remembered him, and Uddhava is recounting it. Now Vidura was completely satisfied that Krishna remembered me even just before leaving this world, even though I'm so fallen. So Vidura was completely overwhelmed in ecstasy, and in that ecstatic mood, he moves ahead, giving goodbye to Uddhava. Uddhava leads to Badrikashram. Vidura goes on to find Maitreya Rishi. The Maitreya Rishi is on the banks of the Ganges. So if you see, we came through three banks today on this in this particular chapter. We came across or we went to the banks of three great rivers in this planet. One is River Saraswati, where on whose bank Krishna met Maitreya Rishi and Uddhava, that is near Dwarka at the Prabhasa Kshetra on the banks of the river Saraswati. After that, Krishna, Uddhava met Vidura on the banks of Yamuna, which is in Vrindavan. And now Vidura is going to meet Maitreya Rishi on the banks of Ganges. So after hearing from Krishna on the banks of river Saraswati, Uddhava traveled to the banks of Yamuna and Maitreya Rishi traveled to the banks of Ganges. So now from the Ganges, from the bank of Yamuna, Vidura is going to travel towards the banks of the Ganges to meet Maitreya Rishi where he is situated. So we will see next week how did the meeting happen with Vidura and Maitreya and what did Maitreya and Vidura discuss. So that will be for the next week. So thank you very much for joining. I'm extremely grateful for this opportunity. I thank all of you. I thank various devotees who have given me this knowledge and helped me understand to some extent with whatever ability I have. So, Jai Shri Prabhupada, Ki Jai, Udai Gaura Purnimande, Gantara Shri So thank you all for joining. If you have any questions, we can take. Those who want to move ahead, thank you for joining. You can go ahead. And those who have any questions can ask me. And here I have a question for the names of the